from my earliest days. I remember going into protests and my mother didn't know we were downtown. She didn't want us to be down there. She said, don't go. We would sneak and go to the protests when I was a teenager in Melbourne, Florida. They would go downtown to force our way into that cafeteria and sit in there because our people were serving the food, cooking the food, and we couldn't go sit at the counters. We had to go to the back door to get our food. In the late 50s, early 60s, anywhere we went downtown to get anything, food, we had to go to the back door. To go to the movies, we had to go to the back, up the stairs, into the balcony where all the seats had springs sticking up out of them. You had to sit sideways to keep the springs from sticking you in your behind. So, I mean, that's what we were given. All the secondhand school books, all of our books were torn and pages missing. Stone School was a school that was built by a prominent Black man, Mr. Stone. Our school was a school for Black children. And we had our games on our side of town, and we had our parades on our side of town. Sometimes we would march through downtown, but we would march through there very quickly and come right on back home because we knew that if we stayed too long, we would be beaten. We were at band practice one night when I was in high school. We were waiting for one of the band members to come. I mean, he was late. Where's Bobby? He's not here. He never misses band practice. Bobby Jordan came staggering onto the field, blood streaming from his face, eyes being swollen closed. He could barely see. His eyes were swollen closed, both of them, lips all beat up. He was beaten. He got caught downtown after dark. We didn't go downtown after dark. To get downtown, you had to walk across a bridge, a wooden bridge, next to a railroad track that was rickety. You could see holes in it. I was petrified to walk across that bridge. And it was a long bridge because it was an expansive river that it had to cross. But that's how Black people got to downtown. That's the way in and the way out, because you couldn't go around the other way because that was a white neighborhood. We were contained in our neighborhood, and the dividing line was the railroad track. I had two family members in Laguna Beach, California. In 1963, I was in my junior year of high school, going into my senior year. We took the Greyhound bus to California and lived with my sister. When I got off that bus, it was at night. And my sister came to the bus station and picked us up. I didn't see anything. I didn't know where I was. When I woke up that morning, I woke up and went outside. I had never seen a mountain before in my life. And that mountain rose up in front of me, and I was just struck. I was in awe. Because in Florida, we had to ride 14 miles, pile in the car. A lot of people had to ride 14 miles to go to the Black Beach. The road that we lived on was Laguna Canyon Road, and Laguna Canyon Road ended on Main Street, the ocean. When you get to the end of Laguna Canyon Road, the ocean is in your face. And I thought I had died and gone to heaven because I had never seen anything like that before in my life. I had only seen trees, walked through woods, getting sand spurs stuck in my feet. If you don't know what a sand spur is a thorny little berry that grows in the ground in Florida and other places down south. The thorns are hard, worse than a rose thorn. They stick in your foot. Oh my God. You have to pull it out. But to pull it out, you have to grab it. And it's nothing but thorns. So you have to wrap your hands up with something to pull it out. My oldest sister worked as a living maid to help my mother take care of us. She worked for a family who had a beach house in Melbourne, Florida. And in the summertime, the beach was right at their back door, but their yard was full of sand spurs. One of my sister's jobs was to pull up a path of sand spurs so that they could walk to the beach without getting sand spurs in their feet. And she would sometimes come and get us, her smaller sisters and brothers. When they were gone, she would come and get us and say, help me pull these sand spurs up and I'll pay you $1 or 50 cents. So we had to pull up those sand spurs and make a path so those people could walk to the beach without getting their feet stuck. And God only knows what happened if they got their feet stuck, because we weren't there to see what they did to my sister. When I moved to Laguna Beach, the Civil Rights Act was passed, which meant we could go through the front door. When I went into Laguna Beach High School and introduced myself, and immediately I became a band member because I was in the band in Florida. And Allison came up to me and said, hi, my name is Allison, and we're going to be friends. We became friends. And I had never had a white friend before. The way I described going to Laguna Beach was I was a black bird in flight, and I lost my flight. I fell. And I fell into a bucket of white paint, staggered out in front of a mirror, a glass window, and I saw this image of myself. Because when you are Black, there were only 4 Blacks in Laguna Beach High School when I got there in 1964. I was the 4th one. There were 15 Black families in Laguna Beach, and all of them were domestic workers. All the Black people knew their place. We congregated together, but we also had white friends. And another thing I had never seen before I went to Laguna was real homes that looked like mansions. I mean, beautiful homes. Dorcas's house looked like a castle. It had turrets on each corner of it. And I said, "What did your father do?" You know, she's like, they're just my parents, you know. Allison's father was an architect. Allison's home was built down the side of a canyon. When I went to Allison's home, my mouth fell open because I had never been in a home like that before. All wood floors and tile and beautiful granite and things that I had never even dreamed of. And she said, "Come on in, just go in there. You can go in my room." You know, I'm like, "I don't think I better go in your room. I don't think I better come in there." And then they took me to the movies and I stopped and pulled back and they said, "Come on, Vera." I said, "Well, I can't go through the front door." They said, "Why?" I said, "Because we don't go through the front door." And they were like, "What are you talking about?" They didn't understand. And that just goes to show you how far removed people are from the plight of an entire race. Because if you're in your own world, you're in a world of beauty, you go to the beach every day. Those kids would bring their surfboards to school, prop them up against the wall. When the bell would ring, they would get on their little skateboards and scoot right down, because Laguna Beach High School is up on a hill. And you look down the hill, you look right into the water. It's glistening right there waiting for you. Those kids would ride their skateboards down to the end of the street and jump in the water. Allison's parents were very progressive, and they were civil rights workers. They were politically active in Laguna Beach, fought for all kinds of things, and they had a history of it. Paul Robeson, Black activist back in the 40s. He was an opera singer, and he had singing engagements all over the country and the world. He had a performance to do in upstate New York, and Allison's parents were in upstate New York to go see him. He was attacked, and her parents and all of the other white people who were there to see him had to form a human shield around him to get him out of there without being killed. And they were beaten and pushed, and it was very frightening because she was pregnant. But that's one of the stories that her mother told me, you know, because I spent a lot of time in their home. Allison Bland's mother, Irene Bland, and Bob Bland taught me how to protest peacefully. That's where I learned how to be politically active. The first political action that I took place in was to make signs to place all over Laguna Beach to tell people about the 30-mile walk for Cesar Chavez in protest of the short-handled hoe. Cesar Chavez was a Mexican farm worker. He was the leader of the Farm Workers Association. And at that time, anybody who was politically aware was aware of the fact that these Mexicans were being made to harvest food. Short-handled hoe has a handle that's about that long, and you got to bend down all day long. That's cruel and inhumane treatment of another human being to get food for yourself. So the first people that I protested for were my own down in Melbourne, but the second people I protested for were the Mexicans who were being mistreated because of the conditions they had to work in. No bathrooms, you know. How are you going to have people harvesting your food and you don't give them a place to wash their hands or use the bathroom in a sanitary way? That transfers to your food. Hand washing stations should be stationed all throughout fields of food. Irene Bland taught me how to channel my energy when I had an issue with a political issue or anything. She taught me how to channel it positively without being destructive. She would come to functions and sing and soothe the crowd and keep people focused on the issue at hand instead of on violence. Irene was one of those people who, if she saw you in pain, she would pull you to the side and say, "What's wrong? Talk to me. Tell me about it." And she would either offer some advice, and if she didn't have any advice to offer, she would offer you comfort. That's amazing medicine. So she was a valuable person in my life. I had my first child at age 19. Well, Allison's mother, before my first child was born, she was a famous music teacher. She taught children who were hyperactive how to be still and settle down through the use of music. Music was the great calming device that she used on these children. She would have a waiting list. People would be signed up for her class for 3 years and still didn't get in. But before my children were born, she put them in her class. You know, that's how much she loved me. When I left Laguna Beach, I hadn't talked to any of them for over 30 years. And she was asking all around Laguna, who knows where Vera is? Where's Vera? And so somebody told her where I was. And the next thing I knew, I was getting a call from Irene Bland after 30 years saying, where are you? I need to, somebody gave me this number and I need to stay in touch with you. And I want you and Allison to stay in touch. So she reunited me and Allison. We have to start focusing on real solutions. That's the task.
You have to be critical about what your parents or your teachers have been telling you. You know, like think for yourself whether something is right or wrong.
And when I talked to Naima the other night, when she went to that peaceful protest downtown, because I was very afraid for her, just like my parents used to be, I expressed common sense to her. I told her to stay in her lane. Do not even let your friends tell you how to protest. You go down. If it's a peaceful protest, that should be your focus. This is how I feel about policemen. The policeman is a position of honor, and it should be, as is the fireman. Those positions should be paid a high salary, because I don't know anyone who calls a policeman who does not want them to come when they call. If you need them, really need them, you want them to come and help you. So they are putting their lives on the line sometimes to help other people.
Yeah.
So they should be given a high salary, and the honor should be placed on that position before the person is hired. They should be made aware of the honor that is being bestowed upon them by being hired as a policeman. But the caveat should be that they live up to that honor and never dishonor that honor. And if they do, there's a price to pay. You lose the rank, you lose the honor, you're stripped of the honor, and you're not given it again. I have policemen in my family. All of the little boys, you ask them what they want to be, little black boys. I want to be a policeman, because we had 2 black policemen in our neighborhood. They knew our parents. They knew all of us. They knew all of the teachers. They lived in the community. And if they caught us, any of us, doing anything wrong or misbehaving, they would walk you home. That was the worst punishment you could get. He didn't have to do anything to you. All he had to do was turn you over to your mother, because she would kill you. I mean, the humiliation first for the family, that you are being walked through the streets by the policeman to your home. That's humiliating. So that's how we were raised to look at policemen. But this today, what I'm seeing with people being beaten and shoved and pushed and hurt and disrespected, and I can't even connect the two at the job with that. I refuse to accept the idea that the country that I call home is deteriorating. To think that here we are in 2020, and there are people who are clinging to old ideas, that you can keep part of the old idea and morph it. You have to adjust all of the things that this country was founded on. You have to adjust everything to accommodate the time that you're living in, and to accommodate the expansion of people's minds. People's minds don't stay just like this all the time. People are growing, their minds are expanding. They're talking to other people. They're going other places. They're visiting other countries. They're talking to other cultures. They're interacting as human beings on the planet. You can't just say you have to stay in this box all the time and not step out the line. If you step out of the line, we're going to squash you. You can't do that to people. We would not grow as human beings. Trees grow, and you can tell the growth of a tree by the rungs of time. If you cut a tree open, you see the growth, that rung. That tree can grow to be as big as any building you can build. I have seen trees so magnificent that the only thing I could do to that tree was bow, because of the growth. Mm-hmm. Now imagine if the human race was allowed to grow like that. How great could we be? There are those who are alive and yet will never live. There are those who are dead, yet will live forever. Great deeds inspire and encourage the living.